The following interview has been simulated using artificial intelligence.
Hello everyone, we are broadcasting from the facilities of Cornell University. Today we are honored by the presence of a man whose work has reshaped the epistemology of our discipline, Dr. Ulric Neisser. Welcome our host Adriana.
Dr. Neisser, welcome to Dialogues from Cornell.
Thank you, Adriana, it's a pleasure.
Dr. Neisser, in 1967, you systematized what we now call cognitive psychology.
However, after nearly a decade, your recent monograph seems to propose a break from your own postulates.
Indeed, Adriana, more than a break, what I seek is an expansion. Sometimes, to clearly understand how the mind works, one must step away from the drawing board and observe behavior in its natural state.
Interesting approach. Now, if you allow me, Doctor, let us enter the debate on a critical stance you have maintained towards Skinner's radical behaviorism, to whom many of us owe psychology's status as a natural science.
Now, do you not think that by focusing on mental processes, those private events, we risk losing the experimental rigor that was so difficult to achieve?
That is a valid objection often heard in psychology departments. Behaviorism gave us an admirable method and moved us away from the sterile introspection of the past century.
However, by declaring the mind an impenetrable black box, we ended up studying humans as laboratory automatons.
My proposal is not to abandon rigor, but to reintegrate our object of study.
The mental activity that encodes, transforms, and retrieves information.
Without that, psychology is an incomplete science.
In your work, Cognition and Reality, you issue a strong warning to your fellow cognitivists.
You say we have confined ourselves to laboratories under artificial conditions.
But is that isolation not what guarantees the purity of data?
That is precisely the core of the problem.
We are obtaining impeccable data on how meaningless syllables are memorized. But what does that tell us about a person walking down the street?
The mind is a biological system designed to operate in a real environment. I advocate for ecological validity.
Science must account for how we perceive and remember in natural contexts.
Information processing does not occur in a vacuum, but in a world full of meaning and complex stimuli.
That complexity becomes evident in your research on episodic memory.
You analyzed John Dean's testimony in the Watergate scandal.
What conclusions did you draw about the reliability of our mental records?
It was a fascinating natural experiment. By comparing the testimony with the tape recordings,
we discovered that memory does not function like a film camera.
On the contrary, it is a reconstructive process. Dean was not deliberately falsifying reality.
His mind synthesized events based on his cognitive schemas and social role.
This teaches us that memory is a constantly updated construction.
A person's certainty is not a guarantee of historical accuracy.
That idea strongly resonates with emerging social psychology movements in Latin America.
If thought is situated and depends on context, can cognitive psychology serve as a tool for community intervention?
Without a doubt. Cognition is an activity situated within culture and history. One cannot understand an individual's mental structure if it is separated from its social environment.
If we aim to transform the living conditions of a community,
we must first decode the collective schemas through which that community interprets its own reality.
Doctor, to conclude this conversation, what reflection would you offer to students
who are beginning their academic journey in this era of change?
I would ask them not to be seduced by the fragmentation of knowledge. Psychology
should not be a collection of isolated boxes. They must remember that there is no perception without culture,
nor cognition without the foundation of emotion. Let their vocation not be limited to data analysis,
but serve to help human beings understand their own existence.
Ultimately, to transform their world.
To understand the mind in order to transform the world.
This has been a masterclass. Thank you very much for joining us.
And to our followers, until our next dialogue from Cornell.